Jay Park stood on the cold metal deck of the abandoned cargo vessel, his breath forming small clouds in the recycled air. The cargo hold was dark, with only emergency lights casting dim shadows across rusted metal surfaces. He had seen many abandoned ships during his 5 years as a cargo inspector, but something felt different about this one. A soft sound caught his attention. Not the usual creaking of old metal or the distant hum of mechanical systems, but something more organic. A whimper. A hint of movement in the darkness. His hand instinctively moved to the small flashlight on his utility belt. The beam cut through the shadows, revealing a figure chained to the far wall. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. But no, there was definitely someone or something restrained in the shadows. As the light focused, Jay realized he was looking at an alien. Not like the typical broadcast images of aggressive invaders or distant diplomats, but a creature who looked defeated. Thin arms were stretched above her head, connected to heavy metal restraints that seemed designed to break both body and spirit. Her skin was pale blue with slight iridescent scales that caught the light. Large eyes, a deep emerald green, stared back at him with a mixture of fear and something else. Hope, perhaps. Or maybe just the faintest hint of survival instinct. Jay knew the standard procedure. Report the finding. Let the authorities handle the alien. Collect his standard discovery bonus. But something about her made him pause. The way she didn't struggle. The way her eyes seemed to tell a story of endless suffering. He approached slowly, speaking softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The alien didn't respond. She just watched him, those green eyes tracking his every movement. The restraints were complex, clearly designed to prevent easy removal. But Jay had worked on enough cargo ships to understand mechanical systems. His hands moved with practiced precision, carefully disconnecting energy connectors and releasing locking mechanisms. When the last restraint fell, the alien didn't move. She seemed uncertain whether freedom was real or just another form of cruelty. "You're free," Jay said, offering her a water pouch from his utility belt. Her hand, with long, delicate fingers, reached out hesitantly. Her movements were slow, as if she was unsure whether this was a trick. Jay noticed scars. Not just physical marks, but the kind of wounds that spoke of long-term suffering. Trafficking victims often carried such memories, whether human or alien. "What's your name?" he asked. "Hannah," she whispered. The words sounded like a breath more than a name. He noticed she was wearing what seemed like remnants of a standard transport worker's uniform, now torn and stained. Her body was thin, muscles atrophied from long confinement. Jay knew he was breaking multiple interstellar protocols. Helping an undocumented alien could mean losing his job, facing significant legal consequences. But looking into Hannah's eyes, he realized he didn't care. "Can you walk?" he asked. Hannah took a tentative step. Her legs were weak, but her spirit seemed unbroken. Jay offered support, helping her move slowly across the cargo hold. Outside the ship, the mining station hummed with its usual mechanical rhythm. Workers moved about, cargo shuttles came and went. No one seemed to notice the cargo inspector walking with an alien who should not exist. In that moment, Jay Park made a decision that would change everything. Not just for himself, but potentially for the entire human-alien relationship. He would protect her. He would help her. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he knew this was just the beginning of a much larger story. Hannah looked up at him, those emerald eyes now holding something new. Not just fear, but a spark of something that might become trust. The first step towards freedom is always the hardest. And they had just taken it together. The first days after rescue were quiet and careful. Jay's small living quarters became a temporary sanctuary for Hannah. She moved slowly, watching everything with cautious eyes that seemed to analyze every detail of her new environment. Communication was difficult. Hannah's native language sounded like a mix of musical tones and soft clicks that no standard translation device could fully interpret. Jay found an old multi-language translator in his storage box, a device he'd kept from his military training years ago. The first attempt was a disaster. When Jay pressed the activation button, the device produced a series of loud, garbled sounds that made Hannah curl into herself, covering her ears. Her reaction was more of a terrified animal than an intelligent being trying to communicate. "Sorry," Jay said softly, putting the device down. He realized patience would be key. Over the next few days, he tried different approaches. Simple hand gestures. Drawing basic pictures. Pointing at objects and speaking their names slowly. Gradually, Hannah began to understand. Her first clear word in human language was water, spoken with a careful, almost musical pronunciation that made Jay smile. She was curious about everything. The smallest human objects fascinated her. A simple spoon became an object of intense study. She would turn it, examine its reflection, tap it against different surfaces, trying to understand its purpose. Jay learned she was from a planet with multiple moons, where gravity worked differently. Her body was adapted to environments humans would find impossible to survive in. The way she moved was both graceful and slightly awkward, like someone learning to walk in a body that didn't quite feel natural. Slowly, her story emerged. Not through words, but through fragments. Gestures. Drawings. Moments of unexpected clarity. She had been part of a scientific expedition. Something went wrong. Her team was captured by traders who saw living beings as nothing more than commodities. She had watched her colleagues die, one by one, during transportation. The trauma was visible in her eyes. Sometimes she would suddenly freeze, lost in memories too painful to express. Jay learned to recognize these moments, to give her space, to offer quiet support. Food was another challenge. Human nutrition was completely different from what her body was used to. Jay consulted medical databases, carefully preparing meals that might provide her necessary nutrients without causing harm. Her first smile came unexpectedly. Jay had accidentally dropped a plate, and the sound made her laugh, a sound so unexpected and musical that it filled the small room with an energy of hope. Days turned into weeks. The translation device, which had initially been a source of fear, became a bridge. Hannah learned to manipulate it, her fingers moving with increasing confidence across its complex interface. Earth, she would say, pointing at objects. Human. Jay. Home. Each word was a victory. Each sentence a step closer to understanding. Jay realized he was no longer just helping a survivor. He was witnessing something extraordinary, the birth of communication between two completely different species. At night, when the station's artificial lights dimmed, Hannah would sit by the small window, watching the stars. Her fingers would trace patterns in the air, perhaps a language Jay would never understand, but which seemed to hold deep meaning for her. Safe, she would sometimes whisper. A word that seemed to mean more to her than just physical security. A promise of something deeper. Of hope. Of a future where being different didn't mean being alone. And Jay would sit beside her, understanding that some connections transcend language. That sometimes, communication is more about listening than speaking. The universe, vast and mysterious, had brought them together. And their journey was just beginning. 24 hours had passed since Jay first spoke about returning documentation for her refugee status. He expected bureaucratic delays, potential complications. What he didn't expect was Hannah appearing at his door precisely at sunset. She stood differently now. No longer the frightened creature from the cargo ship, but someone with purpose. Her posture was straight, eyes clear and focused. In her hands, she carried a small metallic object that seemed to shimmer between solid and liquid states. A gift, Hannah said simply. The device was unlike anything Jay had seen. Its surface changed colors depending on the angle of light, deep blues shifting to metallic silvers, then soft greens. It wasn't just an object. It felt alive. Jay's hands instinctively reached out, then stopped. Something about the device suggested it wasn't just a simple technological artifact. It pulsed with an energy that felt almost intelligent. "What is it?" he asked. Hannah's fingers moved across the object, and it responded. Tiny geometric patterns emerged on its surface, like a language written in light and motion. She explained, her words filtered through the translation device, that it was a defensive technology prototype from her civilization. Protection, she said. A word that seemed to carry multiple meanings. The device was small, no larger than a standard data pad. But when Hannah activated it, a soft blue field emerged, expanding slowly around them. Jay could feel something changing in the room's atmosphere. The air felt different. Charged. Shields, Hannah explained. Not just metal. Living technology. Jay understood now why this was more than a simple gift. This was a bridge between civilizations. A piece of technology that could potentially revolutionize human defense systems. His mind raced with implications. If this technology could be studied, understood, replicated, it would change everything. Planetary defenses. Space exploration. Potential conflict resolution. Hannah watched him carefully. Her eyes held no expectation, just a calm understanding. She wasn't trying to impress him. She was offering a connection. The device continued to pulse. Its geometric patterns seemed to dance, telling a story Jay couldn't yet understand. Complex. Alive. Something between technology and living organism. How does it work? Jay asked. Hannah's explanation was complex. The device didn't just create a physical barrier. It read potential threat signatures. It could adapt. Learn. Predict potential dangerous energy patterns before they became actual threats. Outside Jay's window, the mining station continued its routine operations. Cargo ships moved. Workers shifted between stations. No one knew that a simple gift could potentially change the entire trajectory of human technological understanding. Jay realized this was more than a technological exchange. This was trust. A species that had every reason to fear humans was offering protection. Sharing knowledge. The blue field continued to pulse around them. Soft. Powerful. Alive. Why me? Jay finally asked. Hannah's response was simple. Because you saw me. Not as a thing. As a person. In that moment, something shifted. Not just between Jay and Hannah, but potentially between two entire civilizations. A gift. A promise. A beginning. The device continued to pulse, its geometric patterns telling a story of hope, connection, and unexpected friendship. The research facility buzzed with nervous energy. Scientists from various departments crowded around the small metallic device Jay had brought from his encounter with Hannah. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of Advanced Technological Research, couldn't believe her eyes. This isn't just a shield, she muttered, adjusting her microscope. This is something completely different. Initial tests revealed something extraordinary. The device wasn't just a piece of technology, it was a living system. It could adapt. Learn. Predict potential threats before they even emerged. Each test revealed new layers of complexity that challenged everything humans understood about defensive technologies. Military observers watched from behind reinforced glass. Their usual stern expressions had been replaced by something close to wonder. This single device could potentially rewrite planetary defense strategies. Jay visited the facility regularly, bringing Hannah's additional explanations. She would communicate complex technical details through the translation device, her fingers tracing holographic projections that seemed to breathe with information. The device could generate energy shields that could block multiple weapon signatures simultaneously. It didn't just create a static barrier, it could read incoming energy patterns, understand potential threat levels, and adjust its defensive capabilities in milliseconds. During one critical test, the device demonstrated its most shocking capability. When researchers simulated an advanced weapon attack, the shield not only blocked the energy but actually absorbed and redistributed it. It was like watching a living organism defend itself. This changes everything, Dr. Rodriguez told her team. We're looking at a technological breakthrough that could protect entire planetary regions. Military strategists began running complex simulations. The implications were massive. A single device like this could defend an entire colony against multiple attack vectors. It could revolutionize space exploration, making human expansion into potentially hostile environments suddenly possible. Hannah watched these tests with a calm demeanor. She didn't seem impressed by her own technology. To her, this was simply how advanced civilizations solved problems. Protection wasn't about weapons. It was about understanding. Jay noticed how the scientific team gradually began treating Hannah differently. No longer just an alien refugee, but a critical source of technological knowledge. Her insights were invaluable, her understanding of complex systems beyond human comprehension. The device continued to surprise researchers. It could self-repair, adapt, learn from each interaction. It wasn't just a piece of technology, it was almost like a living organism with its own intelligence. International scientific committees were called. Classified meetings happened behind closed doors. Governments recognized that this single device could shift the entire balance of technological power. But for Hannah, it was never about power. During a quiet moment with Jay, she explained that her civilization viewed technology as a form of communication. A way to solve problems, not create more conflict. Protection is about understanding, she told him. Not about building walls. Her words carried a wisdom that went beyond simple technological exchange. This was a glimpse into an entirely different way of thinking about survival, about interaction between different species. As weeks passed, the research intensified. Each test revealed new layers of complexity. The device wasn't just a shield, it was a complex system that could potentially be adapted to multiple scenarios. Jay watched these developments with a mixture of pride and wonder. The simple act of unchaining an alien in a cargo ship had led to something far beyond his imagination. The scientific community was changing. Researchers who had previously viewed alien encounters with suspicion now saw potential. Collaboration. Understanding. And at the center of it all was a simple device. A gift. A bridge between two civilizations. The future was unfolding, one technological breakthrough at a time. 6 months after Hannah's arrival, the world looked different. What started as a simple rescue had transformed into a global conversation about understanding, cooperation, and hope. Refugee integration programs emerged, inspired by Hannah's story. These weren't just bureaucratic systems, but genuine attempts to create meaningful connections between humans and alien species who had been trapped in complex trafficking networks. Jay found himself at the center of this transformation. Government officials, scientists, and diplomats sought his insights. The man who was once a simple cargo inspector had become a bridge between worlds. Hannah worked closely with human teams, developing protocols for interspecies communication. Her knowledge wasn't just technological, it was deeply philosophical. She showed humans that protection wasn't about building walls, but understanding differences. The technological breakthrough from her defensive device had changed everything. Planetary defense systems were being redesigned. Space exploration teams prepared for missions that were previously considered impossible. Entire regions could now be protected with technology that adapted and learned. But the most significant changes weren't technological. They were human. Schools began introducing programs about alien cultures. Children learned about different civilizations, their histories, their struggles. The fear that had dominated previous generations started dissolving, replaced by curiosity and empathy. Military training shifted. Soldiers were now taught communication strategies before combat techniques. Understanding became the first line of defense. Hannah became a symbol of hope. Her story spread across media channels, from a chained refugee to a critical contributor to human technological advancement. She represented resilience, forgiveness, and the power of seeing beyond surface differences. Jay watched these developments with a sense of quiet pride. He hadn't planned any of this. He had simply made a human choice to help someone in need. International conferences discussed the potential of interspecies collaboration. Scientists from different backgrounds shared research. Diplomatic channels opened with alien civilizations that had previously been considered potential threats. The device Hannah brought continued to surprise researchers. It wasn't just a shield, it was a living system of knowledge. Each interaction revealed new layers of complexity, new ways of understanding protection and communication. Government buildings started incorporating design elements inspired by Hannah's technology. Soft, adaptive spaces that could change based on environmental needs. Architecture became a language of understanding. Refugee centers transformed. No longer were they just holding spaces, but places of genuine integration, learning, and mutual growth. Survivors from different species found community, support, and hope. Jay and Hannah continued their work together. They traveled, spoke at conferences, shared their story. Their relationship became a powerful metaphor not of rescue, but of mutual understanding. "We are different," Hannah would often say, "but difference doesn't mean conflict." Her words resonated globally. Political boundaries started feeling less rigid. Cultural exchanges became more frequent. The concept of alien began losing its fear-based meaning. Research continued into the adaptive shield technology. Each breakthrough brought new possibilities. Entire planetary defense strategies were being rewritten. Space exploration suddenly felt less like a military mission and more like a collaborative journey. The mining station where Jay first found Hannah became a symbol. A museum was established, telling their story. School children would visit, learning about the moment when a simple act of kindness changed the trajectory of human understanding. Hannah never forgot her past. The scars of her trafficking experience remained. But now, those scars were symbols of survival, of transformation, of hope. As years passed, their story became more than a personal narrative. It became a global mythology. A reminder that compassion could be the most powerful technology of all. The universe, vast and mysterious, had brought two different beings together. And in their connection, they had changed everything.